I need approval of minutes of December 15th meeting, Andrew? Okay. Committee work plan.
No change to work plan, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Moved. Okay, want to do the next completions?
Okay.
Go.
MTA committed $3.87 billion through December, 58% of planned commitments of $6.63 billion. New York City Transit committed $2.41 billion, or 71% of its plan of $3.39 billion. This is mostly due to the delayed award of 8 stations on the Rockaway line for $51 million, modernization of the QBL, Lex, and Fifth Avenue interlocking for $98 million until January 2009. Culver Line Viaduct and interlocking for $188 million until March 2009. 5 stations on the Pelham Line for $82 million, and the White Plains Line, East 180th Street Station Rehab and ADA for $40 million until April 2009. Flushing CBTC for $251 million until July 2009. Purchase of the balance of 19 buses for $62 million of the 126 express bus plan, which was awarded in July. The delay is until October 2009. The VHF radio system upgrade for $122 million until November 2009. Purchase of 190 articulated buses for $69 million. Additional Pelham Line stations contract day for $61 million. Modernization of QBL 71st and Union Turnpike interlockings for $129 million until January 2010. 27th Street Shop for $145 million until May 2010. And the Jackson Area Event Plan for $64 million until October 2010. Long Island Railroad committed $314 million, or 91% of its plan. Metro North committed $137 million, or 80% of its plan of $171 million. This is due to delay in the New Haven Line station improvements for $30 million, which have slipped till May 2009. Capital Construction committed $614 million, or 29% of its plan. This is primarily due to slippage in award of the secondary subway 96th Street station for $294 million until January 2009. Queens Board Tunnels for $459 million until March 2009. 50th Street Vent Plan for $123 million until December. And other repackaged Fulton Street contracts for $292 million to be scheduled in 2009. Also, ESA's Harold Interlocking Central Instrument location for $41 million is subject to a bid protest. Bridges and Tunnels committed $347 million, or 82% of its plan of $424 million, mostly due to delay in award of the Triborough Bridge, RFK Bridge, tunnel building 104 rehab for $60 million until December 2009. MTA Bus committed $37 million, or 32% of its plan. This is mostly due to delay in a new roof ventilation at the LaGuardia Bus Depot for $10 million until June, various power upgrades, emergency generators for $14 million until August, and the purchase of 72 articulated buses for $46 million in the next capital plan. MTA Police committed $12 million, or 22% of its plan of $55 million. This is due to delay in the public safety radio for $37 million, pending a vendor decision by the New York State Office of Technology. This has been repeated several times now. Completions, MTA completed $3.34 billion through December 2008, 76% of the planned completions. New York City Transit completed $2.74 billion, or 91% of its plan. Long Island Railroad completed $148 million, or 43% of its plan of $340 million. Mostly due to delay in completion of the Jamaica interlocking for $13 million, and Long Island City Yard Phase 2 for $18 million until January 2009, Richmond Hill improvements for $23 million, and Atlantic Terminal for $100 million until March 2009, and the Broadway Platform Station rehab for $14 million until May 2009. Metro North completed $81 million, or 106% of its plan. Capital Construction completed $291 million, or 33% of its plan of $869 million. Is due to delay in completion of the South Ferry Terminal structure for $292 million and Battery Place Vent Plan for $25 million until April 2009. And finally, Bridges and Tunnels completed $79 million, or 96% of its plan of $82 million.
Thank you. Okay, now we have New York Transit. Our Chief Architect, Judy, please, you're on. Love saying Chief Architect. It's a wonderful title.
Thanks, Dale. So the purpose of this presentation is to report on 3 things: the cleaning methods and manpower, the associated life cycle costs, and new materials. As noted a year ago, when we presented to you last, our guidelines have changed through the years since the inception. And as you can see here, we still have 144 underground stations with the original concrete in place, and various other finishes at the stations that have gone through rehabilitations. And just take note to the double asterisk below where it states that there are no underground stations proposed for 2010 to 14 program. Again, as presented a year ago and seen throughout the system, we have porcelain, next slide, concrete existing, and concrete new. And we also have granite. The flooring criteria, which is considered when we choose flooring finishes, you'll notice in front of you. Last year, when we presented, we concluded that the direction to follow would be to do a cleaning pilot to determine a regimen that would give us clean stations and find the associated costs with that, and then recalculate the life cycle costs, and of course continue to reach out to industry in two areas, both in terms of technology for cleaning as well as different new materials to consider. So, departments of stations, with Griselda next to me, we can speak to any questions that you have, conducted a cleaning pilot. We looked at a number of different technologies, one of which was a dry ice machine. We also have the low pressure and high temperature steam. In both cases, the manpower required, it was very labor intensive for these machines. There were other issues as well. Two companies also came in to talk about our methods as well as materials that we use, and overwhelmingly they recommended that we need additional manpower to keep our stations clean, and 5 new cleaning products were added to our cleaning arsenal. I just want to remind everyone, I think it's obvious, but that both local and global studies have shown that what's most important to the customer is to have clean stations. So with that in mind, we did cleaning pilots at the 3 stations noted here. We created an independent panel to come and randomly visit those stations during this cleaning pilot. And important to note that the standard of cleanliness that they were asked to opine on was free of grime, gum, stains, spills, and other dirt. So when they visited those stations, if that wasn't apparent, they were to report back to us and let us know. Next slide. So the methodology employed, we put cleaners out there once a month to see if that was enough to keep the stations cleaned. It wasn't, so we increased that to twice a month, weekly, and then what became apparent for our concrete stations was we needed to have a daily cleaning if, in fact, we were going to keep those stations clean. And on a granite station, we needed weekly cleaning with an additional twice per month power wash, again, to keep the station to that standard of cleanliness. So just to show you a couple of slides in terms of a new concrete station, this is after a day, 3 days. Noted, sorry, and 5 days, and you know, concrete, it's a monolithic, it's a porous material, and so it shows the stains, it absorbs the stains and becomes a problem. If we look at the granite, this is after a day, another station, this is after a week, and even after 2 weeks, while you can see the dirt is not as readily apparent, and so it's much more forgiving material in terms of perception.
In a concrete example, did you have active leakage going on over it, or was that just stuff that passengers were tracking in?
Again, we were looking at 2 different concrete stations. It could be anything. It could have been coffee, ketchup, dragged garbage. It could have been leaks. I don't know if you want to further comment.
On that particular shot that you saw was not a leak. Those was actual stains from people using the station.
Astonishing.
You should have a no ketchup policy.
Should have a no food policy and enforce it. But anyway, so again, the second thing that I wanted to report on, so once we understand what the cleaning regimen is required to keep our stations clean, to take that information and to apply it to life cycle costing. And if you'll note that when you apply that regimen and you compare the concrete with the granite, after a year and a half, the life cycle costs are the same. If we start looking 10 years further on, then there's a savings, in fact. Now, of course, if we don't have the funding to supply that manpower, again, just to reiterate, the granite in between cleanings looks, as the perception is that it's cleaner. Oh, sorry. Sure. Okay, well, the initial installation costs are what they are. Then we have the annual cleaning costs. No, that's if you work the numbers back based on the annualized life cycle costs. After less than a year and a half, we wind up with the same. If you look at the granite is $241,000 per year, and the concrete is $1.2 million. So, a year and a half down, they're about equalized. And if you go 10 years, you take that difference and multiply by 10 years, you're looking at $9+ million savings.
And since we don't do stations except maybe once every 100 years, it's obvious which is the smarter deal.
Right, in terms of life cycle cost, no question. Any other questions on this slide?
I just think somebody ought to say for the record, this is the Barry Feinstein answer that, really started way back with Barry, if you all remember. You had this battle, and I think, unfortunately, Barry isn't here to see that, in fact, there's a better alternative. But right. So, in the future, when we start doing stations underground again, we'll know where we're going to go unless we get a better material between now and then, which is what you're going to talk about. But I'm sorry, Barry isn't here for today.
Sorry. Oh, I was going to say in the recap, but Connie's right. The reason that I didn't even address the portion of we've seen that from a durability point of view and from a point of view of cleanliness, in between cleanings, unfortunately the dirt does show, and we've had too many instances of durability questions raised. So in terms of new materials, we're in the middle right now of a pilot at Chambers Street, the mezzanine. There are also some smaller pilots, one here at Grand Central, also at Penn Station, and outdoors at the elevated 207th Street station. This is a resinous material which bonds with the concrete. It's been used for over 30 years in Norway in the fishing industry, where it has to deal with salts and keeping odors out. It really is, it's impervious to those. It was used in the Oslo Transit as well, and a stadium in England, and it's new material here in the States. It's being used. It was just installed last year at the Corona Flushing Meadow Park in the ice rink swimming pool. So, as I say, we have a pilot going on in Chambers Street, and we're collecting data now and monitoring it. It does seem to answer our requirements if you go back and look at the criteria that we look at in evaluating a floor. So our recommendations today are to reiterate, to remove porcelain from the guidelines, to add granite for a tile in our underground stations as one alternative. The second is to consider existing concrete if it is in good condition as a potential to leave in place. To continue to explore new flooring materials, as we should do continuously. To expand the pilot that we've started at Chambers Street at other heavily trafficked stations as well as elevated stations. And to return back to you in a year and report to you.
So, are you saying that you think this new material has promised both underground and elevated?
We do, based on what we've seen. We want to finish the freeze-thaw cycle up at 207th Street, but from what I understand, and Griselda can speak, it really is in the same condition as it was in when we installed it 6 months ago.
So far, they find it easy to clean. It's non-slip resistant, and so far it's held up to the salt and sand, but we've only had 4 storms so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we have to be cautious about is obviously the porcelain tile for a number of years looked very, very good, and then it suddenly started cracking and sort of took itself from what appeared to be a very good material to a non-starter because you simply couldn't replace it and match the existing tile. So this looks fantastic, but we need some more testing before committing to it in anything other than a pilot basis.
On the other hand, I mean, if what you're saying, I'm not saying that we should necessarily accelerate that, but it's been life-tested in Norway, which has it, I would assume, at least as extreme a climate as we have here, so it's not like it's coming fresh out of the lab or anything. It's
No, that's very true, but I can't tell you how many vendors have come in. I remember a certain bus manufacturer came in and claimed that their buses operated all over Africa, and if they worked in Africa, they certainly would work on the streets of New York, and the A-frame fell out of the bottom of one of them within about 10 months' time. So.
I think what you should be comforted in is that any of the stations that we're doing outdoors, if this stuff really does stand up to the test, we can always go back and do it. It's not a big, I mean, it's a big deal if you don't know how to do it, but in relative to all things, it's not a big deal. So I think the plan is if it tests out, it's what we're going to use for surface covering all the renovated stations, and we'll see if we got any money to go back and do any more.
Right, an advantage of the material, it sets in less than 2 hours.
And what did you say, that, if you did say, the cost relative to granite, shall we say?
Oh, it's a quarter, between a third and a quarter. I mean, it depends. Again, we're going through the pilot. They're learning about what it is to install it in our system. But you're talking about a third to a quarter of the price, not less, of the price, of the total.
And you can do wonderful things with coloring with it, too. You can make it any color you want, any sets colors. So you can use, how to get out an emergency yellow. You can do all sorts of wonderful things.
Even,
But let's
fluorescent flakes, which they put in here.
Iridescent.
Iridescent flakes. But anyway, if you lost power, it could show you the path to the exit. So, it's got a lot of potential, but we are cautious in this system, so we're going on this pilot basis, and we'll be watching it very carefully.
Maybe it needs a lot of fish oil like they have in Norway, too.
All right, Andrew, it's getting late. Okay. You can be sure if we can use it and it's a good product, we want to use it because we want to refresh what the stations look like and what our customers see in the stations. So we're on it, not to worry. I'm just sorry Barry isn't here.
You also have maybe a yellow brick road type of
Yeah, exactly.
application.
Right. Okay. You guys finished? Thank you, Chief Architect. That was great. Now, we're going again to New York Transit. We're doing another one for an update on the and a presentation on the West End risk-based workshop. Seymour, Craig, John, you're on. Any place. Make yourselves comfortable. Do your number, please. You're on. Did we have to adopt any of that recommendation from Judy or not? We didn't have to adopt anything. We didn't have a vote, did we?
No.
Hey, good afternoon. With me today I have Craig Stewart and John Pentelides, who will be discussing the phasing and the risk assessment of the West End Line project. For the first time in my program, we have done a risk assessment of one of the major projects. The purpose of it is to minimize customers' impact, to mitigate schedule delay, and also to ensure a clear path to a successful project delivery. The system map shows the current the current status of stations and ADA projects. In 1990, the MTA agreed to have 100 key stations completed by the year 2020 and 67 stations by the year 2010. Comparing the plan versus the actual accomplishment, we met our 2010 commitment of 67 stations in 2008, 2 years ahead of our schedule. In addition, 16 other stations have vertical access for a grand total of 83 stations. Risk assessment of the West End Line. Why did we do a risk assessment of the West End Line? We did the assessment to ensure that schedule and cost for the project can be confirmed, and to ensure that the project meets the needs and expectation of our customers. The West End Line, as you know, is located in Brooklyn. It spans from Ninth Avenue to Stewart Avenue. To reduce the project duration from its original 54 months to 29 and 31 months, the project is split into 2 contracts, A and B. Both contracts include line structures repair. The work includes the rehabilitation of all architectural and structural elements and the installation of ADA elevators at Bay Parkway. Now Mr. Stewart will discuss the phasing of the project.
Thanks, Seymour. To improve the coordination between the 2 contracts and to minimize disruption to our customers, all southbound station work, right-of-way work, and line structure work will be completed under the first phase. This work will be done with weekend track access occasions, or general orders as we refer to them. The construction management challenge will be to coordinate the work between the two contracts so as to maximize the amount of work being performed during track outages. The objective is to finish all of the southbound platform work completely before moving onto the northbound side under Phase 2. The two-contract scenario will create savings by reducing the number of general orders, thereby requiring contractors to work under the same track access opportunities. With the overall construction duration shortened by 24 months, cost and disruption to our customers will be substantially reduced. While the work is being performed on the southbound side, train service will continue to be provided on the northbound side. Customers traveling to stations north of 62nd Street on the West End line will take the Sea Beach line and transfer at New Utrecht Avenue and back ride to their destination. Likewise, customers traveling to stations south of 62nd Street will take the Sea Beach line to Stillwell Avenue Terminal and transfer and back ride to their destination. The average weekend trip delay to the customer during this period will range on an average of 15 to 30 minutes. Normal service will be provided for weekday rush hour so that the vast majority of our customers will not be impacted. Upon completion of the work under Phase 1, the northbound work for all the stations and line structure work will be performed in a similar fashion as Phase 2. This is a photograph of Bay Parkway Station, which will be done under Contract A. It is one of two stations on the critical path of these contracts. The other one is 9th Avenue under Contract B. The two stations are landmark stations. They require specialized work and have more extensive scopes of work, as previously mentioned by Seymour. Each station has its own phasing plan that keeps the station open for weekday rush hour service and allows for the safe operation for customers while under reconstruction. Here's a plan view of Bay Parkway showing the phasing of the work at the station. Under the first phase, elevators will be installed at the station to make the station ADA accessible, and the mezzanine will be expanded using new structural steel to accommodate the new street to mezzanine elevator. After Area 1 is completed and reopened for service, Area 2, or the south mezzanine, will be closed for reconstruction, completed and reopened, and then Areas 3, 4, 5, and 6 will follow in sequence. As mentioned earlier, there are risks associated with the coordination of these two contracts and phasing of the work. John Panelidis will now discuss the risk assessment and the mitigations to reduce the identified risk.
Thank you, Craig. Good afternoon. As Seymour said, risk assessment process in CPM is one of the... It's the first time we're doing a risk assessment on the station projects. The process was managed and facilitated by our own consultant, and we utilized schedules, estimates that were developed during the design phase of the project. During the session, we identified risks, but along with the risk, we also discussed mitigations that could be taken in order to minimize any schedule delays or corrective actions. The schedule results, next slide, shows that the 80% confidence level of achieving for Contract A a base duration of 31 months is 31.3, which is essentially the same as our base duration. Now, our base duration is the duration that we estimated prior to the risk assessment that it would take to complete the project from award to substantial completion. For Contract B, the risk assessment shows that there is the 80% confidence level that the project would be completed within 29.9 months, which is approximately only 1 month from our base duration of 29 months. Well, those durations don't surprise us because over the last several years, we completed 6 similar projects. All of them either were completed on time or ahead of schedule. As a matter of fact, as you can see, the last 2 were completed 6 months ahead of schedule. Now, with regards to cost, since the Western Line project is part of the stimulus package, the total project cost that we present is based on the total project, which includes the big cost for both contracts A and B, TA labor cost, EFA cost, or construction administration cost. Our base estimate, again, that we developed prior to risk assessment is $229 million, and the 80% confidence is 238, approximately 4% higher than our base estimate. As I mentioned before, one of the other purposes of risk assessment is not only to identify risks, is to discuss, analyze mitigations that we can take in order to avoid any schedule or cost overruns. This table identifies the risks that and the respective mitigations that we discussed during the design process and also during the risk assessment process. In summary, Simo asked the question, why do risk assessment? Well, one of the major reasons is we want to build our confidence in our cost estimates and schedules. Risk assessment is fairly new, but since then, over the several years, we did take other action that improved our capital planning for our costs and schedules. What we did, we developed more detailed scopes of work. Based on those scopes of works, we developed better, more accurate schedules, better, more accurate cost estimates for both our design effort and our bid cost. Better schedules result into better TA labor cost and improved construction administration cost. Those two initiatives are among a lot of other initiatives we have undertaken within CPM that will contribute to the better project delivery and also improve customer confidence in our work. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, any questions? That's great. Jerry, I think you're the last on our
Nothing to
calendar.
add, sir.
Nothing to add. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all of you who stuck it out. It's been a long day for at least to this point. There's still some more committees to go, but thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next time.